Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I yield myself such time as I may consume.
Gentleman is recognized.
Mr. Speaker, I rise in strong opposition to this bill, H.R. 6726, which seeks to extend the pay freeze on the dedicated men and women of our civil service for the third consecutive year. This is a pig in a poke. From the outset, let me be clear. I strongly support freezing the salaries of members of Congress. I've signed the letter to do that, and if this bill did only that, I'd be an original co-sponsor. But it doesn't. The Senate last night did just that. It froze our salaries. But it didn't do this. It didn't extend that freeze for a third year to the men and women who serve our country in federal service. The bill before us today cynically pairs a pay freeze for us in Congress with a continuation of the pay freeze in career civil servants. It's yet another tired, duplicative, cheap shot at our nation's dedicated federal workforce. One last parting shot in the dying days of this Congress, which cannot die too soon. If members of Congress and the public simply take a look at the scoreboard, they'll see that with respect to the deficit reduction, federal workers not only have borne a disproportionate share of the cost, they've virtually borne the only share of the cost. Federal employees have contributed already $103 billion toward deficit reduction through an extended pay freeze that continues to this day, and benefit cuts. For example, federal workers contributed $60 billion toward deficit reduction as a result of the two-year pay freeze covering 2011 and 2012. The recent pay freeze extension through March of this year adds another $28 billion. This total also includes the $15 billion contribution that will be made by federal new hires, who, starting next year, will see their pay decrease by 2.3% as contributions to their pensions are raised compared to current civil service, with no commensurate benefit increase. Meanwhile, this inequity is amplified when one compares the financial sacrifice made by our dedicated civil servants for deficit reduction. I might add, as if it weren't enough, my friends on the Republican side of the aisle actually tried for the first time to finance transit in America in a transportation bill that died an ignominious and well-deserved death. $50 billion by having these same pension benefit cuts on existing civil service, which would have added $50 billion more to the deficit reduction cost, only a portion to federal workers. Meanwhile, if I'm not mistaken, compared to the $103 billion deficit reduction contribution by federal employees, the deficit reduction sacrifices, that shared sacrifice my friend from Pennsylvania referred to, has demanded of millionaires and billionaires adds up to a grand total of zero. Yet despite these facts, there are still some attempting to squeeze even more deficit reduction out of federal workers, even as they seek to protect the millionaires and billionaires who have yet to make any contribution to debt reduction in this country. Republicans in the 112th Congress have treated federal employees like America's piggy bank, dipping into pay and benefits to help pay for everything, from the payroll tax cut to unemployment benefits to transit and the transportation bill. Federal employees are on the front line of communities throughout America. They defend, they serve side by side with our military in theaters of war. They put out fires, they process Social Security checks, they deal with the sick, and they deal with our children. They protect our borders. I strongly oppose any attempt to cut benefits or wages that federal employees have earned by providing essential services to all Americans. Given the very small share of the federal budget represented by federal employee salaries, further reducing their pay and benefits is not rational, not an effective way to reduce our nation's debt. It's picking on them. I urge my colleagues to vote against this bill, and I reserve the balance of my time.